Hello and welcome to Grim Talks. Last time I talked about the Bradford Guardian 3. It's a great little knife if you're into that kind of thing. And you can check that video out in my history, or maybe I'll try to put it somewhere. This time I want to talk about something a bit more unique, involved, and expensive. I want to talk about the PVS14 night division device, and I also want to talk about the guys that I purchased this unit from, and that's Goonin Gear, and they're at gooningear.com. I'll link it down below. If you stumbled across my no-name channel, you're probably doing what I did when I was planning on spending a whole ton of money on a device like this. I guess the odds are you probably either know what a PVS14 is, or you know who Goonin Gear are, and you're doing what I did, typing on the internet, searching for anyone to tell you how their purchase went. And you know, that's cool because there's a ton of money that goes into investing in something like this. And for most of us, I think like buyer's remorse can set in before you even click on purchase. So I guess I hope I can give you like a little peace of mind if you're in that position. And so the same as last time, I'll just give you the bottom line up front and save you a bit more time. And I'll go into more detail on the unit itself and Goonin Gear for, you know, someone who wants to stick around and listen, and I thank you if you do. But basically this device, it far surpassed my already really high expectations I had based on my past experience using the standard issued PVS14 from the Army when I was an infantry dude from 2004 to 2011. And Goonin Gear themselves were just fantastic to work with. So there you go. If you are going to stick around though, this is the Harris L3 unfilmed white phosphor 22 UA/UM PVS14 from Goonin Gear website. It's basically, and the reason I chose this configuration specifically is that I consider that it might be like the absolute best mid-grade night vision device available. So instead of just like buying a cheap system and then paying more to upgrade later to something that's even more crazy expensive than this, like a dual tube system or something, my purchase philosophy is to just do a bit of research up front, find and then buy a solid, excellent mid-grade thing, and then I'll just keep that as long as possible. And as far as like top of the line mid-grade night vision goes, this is it. In fact, this is probably more than it, and I could have got away with buying a cheaper tube instead of the top one, but I am happy. I am beyond happy with buying this. And if you are researching around and looking at buying a PVS14, you probably already know that the tube that I keep talking to is sort of the heart of this device. It's the internal component that amplifies the external ambient light and then that's what makes it into visible light out to your eye. And so the tubes themselves, they're all like individual and unique. They have their own specifications due to like natural manufacturing flaws, and then the manufacturer tests all of those specifications, and they'll put them on a little form for you, and I'll show you mine later if you're like a FOM guy. But what it means though is that whoever you buy this from, they're usually the assembler of the housing with all of the extra tubes and lenses that are in here along with the tube that you choose, which is the most expensive piece essentially. And so that makes who you buy this from doubly important, because A, it's really expensive and that's scary, and B, like I said, whoever you buy it from makes it and assembles it for you based on your tube choice. And so the overall system depends on how good that person is at assembling it, and that's a big deal. And I started looking for opinions on good night vision sellers / manufacturers on Reddit in the night vision sub, and there was a general consensus on like the credibility of a couple of companies out there, like TNVC and Steel, Kosher, and Goonin, along with a couple others. And side note, those guys in that sub, they do not mess around with their money or their opinions, and I do believe them when they say that any of those other companies would have also been a great choice to go with. It's kind of interesting to me to note that there is almost no conversation there on those subs or other forums that I found about buying a PVS14 from like a chain store or a large hunting type company, even though some of those companies, they have these available on their website. But I think that the reason it's not talked about might just like reflect how individual and specialized each of these is. And it's possible that the truth might be that you're better off making a purchase from one of the smaller stores who focus almost like solely on producing these units versus, you know, guns and everything else that they just carry. And I think you're probably more likely, if you go with one of the smaller companies, to get better continued support, because those companies who make them are like intimately familiar with these systems and they care about their reputation probably more than a big box store would. But that's just my opinion, of course. And if it's like your first time buying something like this, who you go with, it might be based on what kind of like packages they have with accessories, like the bump helmet and the mounts and the little retention lanyards and all the cool stuff like this sticker. Like I know I could have eliminated my desire for this sticker had I just gone with like TNVC, because TNVC they actually have a housing that already has this camo pattern on it, and I would have liked to have that. And if that's just like the thing that tips you over to TNVC versus someone else, then, you know, cool. You just got to balance and decide which one you want up front, I suppose. And the Goonin gear, the package I went with was pretty basic, which I like because it let me add my own stuff that I wanted. It came with the bump helmet, which is like a non-ballistic helmet, and it gets the bump name from protecting you from bumps, but it's really just kind of a fancy bicycle helmet. And the most important part is it has this spot here on the front to connect the mount for your night vision device. I put on the camel cover. I put on the hearing protection, the counterweight, the little flashlight, and all that stuff because I like it. I like shooting, but just know that like none of that stuff came with the Goonin package. The Goonin package was the helmet, the G24 mount, this little J-arm thing that's attached to the PVS14, and that's what like articulates and lets you swing it over one eye or the other, and then make little micro adjustments for, you know, the shape of your eyes. It came with the carrying bag that brought back some memories, and it came with like lens caps, and they gave me some candy and other little things in here that, you know, don't usually like make or break a deal, but it did come with extra little accessories. And obviously it came with the PVS14 itself, and that does have its specifications sheet for the people that like that stuff. I don't know, you might get something out of this. I'm not just gonna go over what each of these one little things means in my video, just because if you're interested in this kind of stuff, you can definitely find a really high speed operator, active duty operator YouTuber that'll legitimately describe each of those things better than I ever could. But you could pause the video and go over them if you want to comment about how much my tube sucks. If you feel the need to do that, that's cool. I don't blame you. For the unit itself, it's the PVS14. It's basically standard in the Army, and all the controls and such are pretty much exactly how I remember it on the outside. I put on this little iris cap hack myself. I found this on the Night Vision Reddit sub. So if you buy like one of these units, it won't come with this. And this lets you like adjust the focal plane and the brightness in one shot on the fly. And both of those adjustments are already on the PVS14 itself, but the cap just gives you more options to like combine and mix and match those things and dial in your view really, really well. And it basically, you set your 2 adjustments on the PVS14 itself, then you put on this little cap, and the cap will take care of both of those harder to get to adjustments on themselves with one smaller, faster little dial. God, I wish I knew about this little hack like way back in 2004, because it really is beneficial to the ease of using this thing. And thank you, Reddit guys out there. And so I've used the PVS14 for real like 10, 15 years ago. So I know how useful the device is, but I was not ready at all for how much they have improved this thing in time. It is absolutely incredible. I'll try to put in some pictures, but even my phone it really can't do justice. It doesn't capture the image like your eye can. And the best I can really compare looking through this to is like if you had like some kind of high definition digital black and white TV, it would look like that, but in pitch black. And when I was in the military, we had to focus and pay attention to whatever the natural lighting conditions were at night. And to the point of being like based on the phases of the moon or the cloud coverage. Because if it was super heavy overcast or the moon was just a tiny little sliver or something like that, with those old tubes, you may as well just toss that piece of crap back in the bag, because there just wouldn't be enough light to amplify to see. And you would even like put missions on hold just because there wasn't enough light to do an operation. But with these, I used them with some pretty heavy overcast, and I even got to use them at the last lunar eclipse we had, and I was out back in the woods. I was out back in the woods at totality, and looking through the tube, I could tell it was dark. It was really dark, but I could still make out enough detail that I was driving around in the side-by-side with no headlights on, and just sort of walking around out in the woods, sneaking around and doing all that kind of cool guy stuff. And it was really just remarkable how clear these were. And if you research around long enough, you'll likely hear someone say something like, oh, night vision is the only superpower you can buy. And yeah, that pretty much, that sums it up. You can buy a superpower. And I've shown this off to a few of my friends that didn't have like military experience. They never looked through it, and their mannerisms, in the first few moments when they first look through this thing, are like, it's like a ritual. They peek in the tube, their jaw drops, and they just say wow a couple times and stammer around. Then they like look into the woods. Then they look over at the neighbor's house and back to the woods, and they take their eye off the tube, so they can look around with just their eyes and see how dark it is, and then they go back to the tube and they look around a little more, and and then I get kind of bored and I'll say something like, man, you should look up at the stars. And God, when they do, their entire expression, it just changes from, wow, this is really cool, to like an out of body experience. And that it's really because stargazing with something like this is really incredible. If you love nerdy star and space stuff like I do, doing a little bit of stargazing with one of these at least one time in your lifetime, it is a must. Just keep in mind, you'll see a lot of little things flying around that probably aren't UFOs. They're just like satellites or a bug reflecting light off their wings. So be careful with your crazy ass uncle. Let them know about satellites. And I guess with all, like, I've been pouring a lot of praise on this thing because it's really cool, but there are downsides. And I want to be clear, my expectations were based on having used a monocle one tube night vision device before, one that was essentially the predecessor to this guy. And so I guess the downsides themselves don't actually have anything to do with this unit because it's flawless to me, but more with like the basic use of using a monocle night vision system. If someone has never used one before, like for your field of view is going to be you're going to be looking through a toilet paper roll. Your depth perception is going to be all jacked up and destroyed because one eye is going to be perceiving so much more detail than the other eye will. And when you first put it on with both eyes open, your brain might get a little wacky as it tries to like merge these two images of your eyes together. But one is going to be looking through a tube, and it's sort of like putting on a pair of glasses or something with a large nose piece right across the bridge of your nose, because your brain's just always going to be seeing this one weird object out of the edge of your eye, and you might get overlaying images as your eyes fight for dominance. So it'll be like an overlay of a dark image on top of what you see through the night vision, or the other way around. And the good news out of that is that you can train all of those problems out, most of those problems out. If you just relax both of your eyes, you focus on what you're looking at, or focus on where you're going, focus on your footsteps, and don't be darting your eyes and head around trying to see everything all at once. And that weirdness, very likely it'll go away, and you'll be just fine. And I guess I'm kind of sorry if I'm not answering all the technical stuff about each knob and all that stuff. If you leave me a comment, I will answer it. I just kind of assume that you're probably researching this and know what it is. But you truly can write an entire novel on both using this device and on the technical side about how to use it. And there's a ton of YouTube people out there with real experience that will happily share that with you, and already have done so in their own videos. So I do encourage you to do a little more Googling if that's what you need to know. This is really just my experience with this and with Goonin, who are, I guess the last thing I will talk about. If you remember when I said earlier, this isn't like my knife or something where one company will make it and then it'll go to a reseller and they'll sell it. This is more like these guys assembled it. And that's why I keep bringing it up, because it's pretty much impossible to separate just talking about this unit without talking about who sold it to me. And with Goonin gear, I saw how active they were and how upfront they were about talking to people and answering questions on that Reddit night vision sub while I was researching, and I thought that was a pretty darn good sign, putting themselves out there like that. And you know, other companies were doing it too. There's quite a few active people on there, and I'm happy for them for doing the same thing. But on a whim, I chose to message Goonin Gear on Reddit, and we chatted for a little bit. We joked around for a little bit. You know, they answered all my questions about ordering and payment and the system itself. So I was pretty comfortable giving them my money, and I did not. I chose not to, you know, tell Goonin any specification requirements I had. I didn't hand select the tube. Some places will do that kind of thing. Instead, I really wanted to see what they would deliver. You know, given them every opportunity, they could have just handed over their worst tube hanging out on the shelf that nobody wanted. And with that opportunity, they instead, you know, they delivered this just amazing tube and entire system to me. And maybe it's because we talked, or maybe I got really lucky. Who knows? Either way, you know, I got a really good tube from them. And take a second to think of that same interaction from the side of the Goonin guy I talked to. That dude, he got contacted by a random person on Reddit. He didn't know if I was a spy or a scammer or a robot, or if I even had any kind of money to spend on something like this. And he definitely didn't know I was going to make a video, because I'm nobody. And that Goonin guy, he treated me like it wasn't even like a customer. Like, you know, he was being nice just to get my money or whatever it was. Instead, we chatted, and he talked to me like a real person. He spoke to me like I'd talk to someone at work or wherever, and it's kind of hard to put into words, you know, just how great that was. So I guess I hope I'm making my point by saying my interaction with them was really positive. I think they delivered an amazing unit, and they did that without anyone watching or holding them accountable. And, you know, that is such a good sign to me about like a moral backbone. And my hat is off to you, Goonin guys. Thank you. I love this thing. And that's it. That's the Grim talk on the Goonin Gear PVS14. This thing is amazing. So thank you for listening, and I hope I'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.